Welcome to Dayton Warcry Club. I'm Warren, and today I'm joined by my co-host Dave, as well as our tournament winner, Dave number 2, Dave H, who won our tournament last weekend. We'll be covering some of the top lists from the event and kind of talk about how the tournament went, and then I'll also talk about some other upcoming summer events we have coming up in the area and elsewhere. How's it going, guys?
Going along.
That's going pretty good.
So we got two Dave. How are we going to do this? Dave S and Dave H.
Works for me.
Okay.
Call me CForever if you want to do that.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, we could use our handles too. So yeah, tonight we're going to kind of cover our usual hobby update and kind of talk about the tournament we had. But before we do that, so Dave, since you haven't been on the show before we kind of get started, how about you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm David H. I play the Ironjawz. I got into the hobby a little while ago, but I've been kind of on and off due to going to college recently.
And then you didn't come straight into Warcry though. I think you do Kill Team with your dad, right?
Yep. I started off playing old edition Kill Team, got into Warhammer, the new edition Kill Team, and then right into Warcry.
Yeah, very cool. And and I'll say right now, like you kind of burst on the tournament scene and just started smashing people, myself included. So
Yeah.
We'll get into that later though. But first, we have our hobby update. So I got some pics of some stuff that I was working on, plus what CForever was working on as well. So here they are almost complete. I got to glue some gravel on the bases, and then they're going to be done. Just haven't had the time to do it yet. So this has been almost all on Wednesdays at Game Haven. I keep on saying I'm going to do more work at home, but I really haven't been doing more work at home on the stuff. And so I'm going to paint once a week, but I'm making the time to go to Game Haven. So again, if you could find a hobby hangout or something like that, I highly recommend it. It's been the one thing that's been getting me, working forward on projects. So to give you an idea of how long this took, I started these before all the Nurgle stuff got nerfed. But I said I was going to see it through because I might need these for a different warband or a different project or something like that. Plus, I could also use them for ageofsigmar Spearhead.
Yeah, I'm in.
They look really good.
Go ahead, CForever.
I was saying I'm in the same boat with my Nurgle too that I got right before the nerf, and are mostly finished.
Yeah, we were all going to be on the Nurgle bandwagon.
Yeah.
And then we got a couple picks from CForever here. Are those your finished Ogroids?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't take too deep a look at them at the tournament. And then you also your Pride and Joy, your Vanguard.
Yes. It won best overall mini when we did paint voting, which was very gratifying. My first and only painting award so far, and I don't really consider myself that great of a painter. So I got second place, but I kind of am happier about that, to be honest. So
yeah, but no, yeah. So you were actually ineligible to win the painting prize, but since you won one of the top prizes, but yeah, you did have 5 first place votes with your Vanguard. So people dig trim.
Yeah.
Happy to include myself as one of those top ones. It was amazing looking.
The model does a lot of the work, so
That's very true.
So just do a real quick recap of the tournament here. So we had the Ferocious Gnarlwood 2 mission pack, and we used a couple of those that came out a few months ago. And I sort of just kind of like listened on Discord, and folks had kind of come up with like a good sounding mission pack. So you did Brutal Encounter, Mystic Glade, and then Loot and Pillage. That's the classic one from the Rumble pack, and then Gifts from the Gods, which is a White Dwarf one. So I think it was probably a pretty good one. The we got pictures of the missions right here. If we need to refer back to them to kind of talk about them, but yeah, several things going on in terms of like keeping track of more enemy fighters, taking down, keeping track of table quarters, objectives. I think these are about at the top end of complexity for what I'm kind of comfortable with doing with players in the area, and what they're doing in other tournaments is probably something like this, or maybe some other like combinations of it. But I sort of like it for folks that don't come out and play too often or don't have a lot of experience with the missions, or like maybe they're seeing it for the first time. I don't want to like have them be completely overwhelmed by them. So, but yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty good set of missions here.
Yeah, I agree.
So we might refer back to this because I think you guys played round 2 on Mystic Glade, I think.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
Yeah, we can do a rundown of that one in a bit here. Let's get to the list here. So for anybody who's watching online, the best way to check out Dayton Warcry Club is online on the YouTube channel, but we will have an audio version as well. But David's list, and it's been more or less the same since you started playing. So you have an Orc Mega Boss, 3 Brutes with Gore Choppas, and 3 Ardboys with Choppa and Shield.
Each decision had like a whole purpose behind it. One of the biggest ones was trying to make sure the entire list had 5 toughness. That was the big goal.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so I'll say that like after you started like smashing everybody, it was part of my inspiration for getting Ironjawz as well. So I actually have everything from this list built and painted as well for Ironjawz. So this was the first list I wound up playing too. I made a few changes since then. I have a few other pieces available to me as well, but yeah, the fact that like brutes with toughness 5, 25 wounds don't go down very easily. Ardboys with choppas and shields. When I first saw your list, I was like, I like the 2-handers more at the time. But then I realized that, a lot of times the purpose of your chaff is just run around and stay alive. And so like right now I have like 4 Ardboys in my list, I think. And yeah, that's their whole goal is just run around, stay alive, toughness 5, 15 wounds. And I found out that they actually fight pretty well. 3 attacks, strength 4, 1-4. They roll a couple crits and they will beat pretty much anything, any other chaff in a straight up fight.
Yeah. And they just have the tankiness to be like, even if you don't beat me right away, I'm gonna still be around. And then I'm gonna have more chances to kill you.
So I know the base list was 990 points and we played with blessings, and so you put +1 crit on the Mega Boss, so goes up to 4 damage and 9 on a crit.
4-9.
Yeah, 4-9.
It's a 9 crit. Admittedly, it would have been better on a brute, but I didn't want to track which brute it was, so I put it on the Mega Boss.
Yeah. So this just came to mind. Yeah. So in the idea, and I mentioned this to you at the event, we've been talking about it here on the channel as well. If you give a +1 crit to any model with a 3/6 damage profile, a hit and a crit will kill a 10 wound model. And that's kind of a big deal because 10 wound chaff is starting to become more and more important in the game. Come to think of it now, so your deployment groups, you had 2 brutes together in one deployment group, the Mega Boss in one, and you had a single brute kind of by himself. And I think that was like your weakest group, I think. If you were to
the groups were the Mega Boss, a brute, and an Ardboy were hammer. 2 brutes were.
Oh, okay. So
and then 2 Ardboys were shield.
Okay, so you just skimped on the shield. Okay.
Yeah, it really bit me in that last match.
Oh, okay.
Because
that makes sense.
there was 2 Ardboys on the field and weren't able to do a lot. But
with 3 brutes, I think I'd have a brute in each group. That's me.
I was thinking that, but when I was looking at them, Shield was in the worst place, except for that very last mission. So
Yeah.
I kind of shot myself in the foot for the last mission to have a better, easier attempt at the other missions.
Okay. Well, without trying to tailor specifically for a mission pack and just trying to like in a vacuum have like 3 balanced groups.
Yeah.
What if you had like 2 brutes together is fine, I think. What if you had a group with like 1 brute plus 2 Ard boys? I think you can do that. Yeah, 1 brute, two of your Ard boys. So you have 3 models, and that brute gets the bonus crit to give it a little bit extra killing power. It's still not super great, but it's not as lopsided. And then the Mega Boss group, obviously, it can hold its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the reason I put a brute with the Mega Boss is for Wa to get that bonus movement out of 2 damage dealers rather than 1. But Wa actually didn't play very well most of the games I played. So
Yeah, I saw you wog once, but
I wad every game, but 2 of the games I rolled a 1, or rather I had like a 2 or something. So I got the lowest level Wa in 2 of my games.
yeah, getting high triples, you can't guarantee high triples, which can be tricky.
Yeah.
And so, and I saw you in your game versus CForever. I know you messing him, and that flipped the objective over to you. So that was a strong play.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the strongest things that just kind of comes free with the brutes.
Yeah, it hasn't. When I've been playing it, it hasn't come up quite so often. But maybe I'm not looking at all of the abilities and using them all to the best of my ability.
Admittedly, you messing only works on missions where it requires you to hold an objective and that your opponent has models that are weak enough.
And you probably only have 1 triple, so you have to kind of choose to use it carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use a lot of charges. So here's another one. I did not mention this to you at the event because I caught it in the middle of the game. I didn't want to interfere in the game. But duff up the big thing you have as well.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I kind of looked at it after all the games and realized I was using onslaughts when I should have been using that.
That's it. Yeah, because you were like fighting Stormcast, and yes, you can always duff up the big thing versus Stormcast. And actually, the +1 strength is just icing on the cake. Maybe you're hitting on 4s instead of 5s now versus Stormcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of why we do these afterwards too, right? Or talk about things. We try to get better and figure out what we are missing, little things. I'll like mentally replay a game in my head or something like that, or realize, okay, yeah, I tunnel vision too much on this, I messed up, and that's part of what helps me get better. When I first started playing this, I was playing even this, I was even playing like the same list super aggressively, charging in, kind of like the way I thought you were playing it, and to be honest, I was getting kind of spanked, in part because like I was sending brutes maybe into fights that they couldn't quite win, that wasn't quite in their favor, or I was like charging off of objectives and losing objectives and that sort of thing. And I sort of realized that if I play a little more cagey, just slightly cagier, and set up counter charges, oftentimes that had been working a little bit better for me. I know I don't know how you were kind of approaching it though.
So the way I approach brutes is the same idea of the you messing ability. They're really good at taking out things that are pretty weak. But when things are tougher, you need to throw in stuff to make it in their favor. That's when you bring out your doubles. That's when you bring out your triples, bring in an additional ally. Like the 2 brutes was a big reason why I was able to beat the Stormcast in the first round. It's because I had 2 brutes working together against his smaller unit count.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's kind of interesting because you do have 4 like legit threats. A lot of lists typically just have the 3. And then I guess one final question here. So the mega boss, how was the mega boss for you?
He was rolling really hot. So every game he got a kill. Let's see, the first game he killed one of the hammer stormcasts. I don't remember what they're called. Next game he rolled 35 damage with 3 crits and a hits to fill in the gap to kill an ogroid, whatever they were called. Sorry. That was the best roll he's made since I've got him. But that was pretty crazy. The next game, he went and killed one of the Plague Lords on the little bloat flies. And then last game, I think he killed a Stalker and like one of the chaff guys out of the Reapers.
Yeah. See, when he fights, he's always been an impact piece when he fights. No doubt about that. Sometimes he does it. Sometimes he's not well positioned and takes a turn or two to get him into the fight. Have you had that happen?
Oh yeah, especially some of my earlier tournaments with him, he would die every single time. It'd be like he goes in against something you probably shouldn't go up and swing, and he just dies.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think I've ever had mine die. People stay away from him. I think
there's only a handful of models that I would put toe to toe with one. Like
it's more like a war of attrition. Like I remember one game, it was like one of the tournaments a long time ago. It went against a Vargeist and like a Ghoul King guy, and he lost because it was 2 models that were way over his point cost.
Right. Yeah, toe to toe, I would say like a Crusher or like a Tyrant, but there's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
He did lose to one of those Hammer Guy Primes. That was the only kill on him today, or sorry, during the tournament, and that was pretty brutal. I think it was an Onslaught that joined it, but it was a lot of damage.
Yeah, usually what happens, even if it takes him a while to get into the fight, usually by the end he's like, like the 4th turn, I roll a rampage, and then like, well, I look at all my other options, like, well, this is why I brought this guy, so I can get the most use out of him, And he'll usually turn the tide with the rampage, or be the final nail in the coffin, usually.
Yep. And what's more, that's why I put him with a brute, so he generally has like a supported push. If you want to go in and fight him, well, even if you could take him out, there's a brute there. If you want to kill a brute, you have to go through him, and they can just take points really easily.
Yeah, and so you got a note here, and you'll see this in the records, right? So we actually had a 3-way tie for first. We had 8 players, 4 rounds. So we played the 4th round, and there actually was a reversal of fortunes because you're undefeated going into the final round. But then you had to play against your dad, who was at 2-1, and he actually took one off of you. So you 2 wound up tied, and you beat CForever, and so he wound up eventually going 3-1. So, and then I used strength of schedule as the next tiebreak, and you guys actually all had the same strength of schedule as well with the system I was using. So we wound up having to go to kill points, and you were kind of far and away the leader in kill points.
In no small part thanks to the mega boss just soloing really big guys, but also just like the brutes were able to team up on important threats when they needed to.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, well played, and hopefully you can come out to the next tournament we have. We'll be talking about it in August here.
Yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Okay, next up, CForever, David number 2, David number 1. Old reliable, Slaves to Darkness.
Yeah, but have a new list. It's not a list I've played before.
Yep.
So the new old.
Yep. So we got a Varangard with Demon Forge Blade, as always. 2 Ogroid Therodons, one with a Great Axe, one with the Sword and Shield. These are the non-leader versions. 5 Chaos Marauders with a Flail. Arguably the best chaff in Chaos now. 1,000 points, 8 models.
Yeah.
So-
So yeah, the Therodons, the first time I've gotten to play with them since they've become a thing, and they're good. They're real good. They generally tend to punch at or a little above their weight. I'd love to get them like a Myrmidon in, but the points just don't really work. So it's not the list that I'm settled on. I don't have a Vexmore yet, but I plan to play something similar to
Ooh.
the swapping out Vexmore for one of the or swapping in Vexmore for one of the Therodons.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna mention that as well because it's actually on the short list for lists that I have
Mhm.
built, ready to prime, minus a Therodon, and I have a suitable Vexmore that I have to paint up. I might get it done and be able to test it to add it to my personal gauntlet for testing, but we'll see. Let's talk about where we might go with that after I ask a couple other questions here about the Therodons. So Varangard, I don't think there's anything we can say about Varangard that hasn't already been said. He's like the all-star offense, defense, moves around, does everything. He's like the Michael Jordan of Warcry.
Yeah.
So you had one of each Therodon. So I guess tell me about the ability. Use the ability. I think you got good mileage of those abilities.
Yeah. So the ability you can only use once per game, which is a hindrance, but as long as you pick your spot, I don't think you notice it too much. There's only going to be maybe 1 or 2 good points in a game to use it in anyway. So I use it a little bit like I use Relentless Killers. Just try to get high doubles to use with it. As long as you're rolling 5 or 6 dice, as long as you're getting like 2, 3 attacks, I mean, the strength is gravy, but there were turns where I'm rolling like 8 attacks with a Therodon, and it's a lot of damage. The first game I did it with the Axe Therodon, I think it was like 27 damage or something in that one attack. So yeah, you get a lot of
Yeah, that was round 1, I think, and that was who'd you play round 1?
Chris.
Yeah, you played Chris on OBR, and I think it was like 27 damage into a Stalker, taking it down to 1.
And then I had my 3 attacks with my second attack. So
yeah, and that was on turn 1, which was like normally you're like maybe take out a chaff model turn 1 in a kill mission. I think it was whatever, right? When you just took out one of his big 3 pieces in one turn.
Yeah.
So durability, how was durability of them? You mentioned this during the event.
They die. They do. They die.
28 wounds. Yeah, 28 wounds is not invincible. Toughness 5 on the axe one.
Yeah, 6 on the shield. Not like they were like, the Mega Boss made pretty quick work. We talked about those.
Yeah.
One got absolutely pounded in the face by a Mega Boss. But other than that, I mean, they're not dying in a turn. But because they're A, big targets, and B, they do tend to have to fight. I mean, they're a fighting piece. They die, but they usually are pretty good about taking things down with them. So
Yep, trading up.
Generally, yeah, they generally are going to get their points back.
So, yeah, and just let's kind of recap the game that you two had. So, from my perspective, what I saw is you have your big 3 here, and we know that Dave had his big 4 there. And the way I saw the matchups going is you had a Mega Boss going 1-on-1 with a Therodon, the Mega Boss won. You had a Therodon that would go up against 2 Brutes, and the Brutes won. It was one Brute died and one Therodon died, leaving another Brute to murder some chaff and take an objective. And then the Varangard, he won his fights, but he didn't have to go against anything serious. He killed a couple of chaff, but he was tied up in that corner of the board and didn't really have an impact in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably one of the biggest reasons I was able to beat him was the Vanguard not being an active piece. And the only other reason I was able to win was a slight strategy in throwing a brute to try to get that double out of one of the Therodon's hands, and then to bring in another brute that eventually killed it.
Yeah,
and
to
took a
bait it
point.
out. So on that ability, right? So your target selection. So the Therodons could clear chaff pretty decently too, right? But the thing is that, like, when you talk about using it in the right place, it's not something you want to burn on a chaff model. This is something where, like, you need to match up your Therodon versus something its size or so to pop that savagery, to really get the most out of it, right?
Yeah. And I also like using it in a way like Relentless Killer, where maybe you are moving in, but not sacrificing attacks because you can do this. And
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
movement. Yeah,
just
movement 5.
in.
Yeah, movement. Yeah, like, because you got movement 5, range 2 on the axe. So yeah,
Right.
that's a big alpha.
Yeah, move in, do your
Yeah.
alpha strike, and try to outlast is kind of how you play with them, I think.
It's actually kind of how I play with the brutes, with the charge on double.
Yeah.
Yep. And you had already kind of mentioned, like, and there was some talk on Discord of, like, you don't need the Myrmidon. It's nice if you have the Myrmidon, but really you got good value out of it even without a Myrmidon, and you got decent value out of it even if, I think, a couple times you burnt like double 3 or double 4. As long as you're getting like 2 attacks plus 2 strength, it was still good enough. Right? That's about the rate for an onslaught.
Right. Exactly. And the strength does matter. There are toughness 6, toughness 7 things out there. So bumping your strength up to like 7, 8, you're getting more attacks, and they're also more likely to hit. So.
And then lastly, I'm so proud of you, Dave, because you ran 8 models.
Yeah.
You had enough points for 5 Marauders with flail. Again, we've gone back and forth. I think we talked about it already, or at least in chat we were. I think there was, well, I don't think it's as much of a contest now. We were talking about, okay, you have 3 options for 60-point chaff and chaos right now. You have plague bearers, you have shatterers, and you have flail marauders. And I think we've kind of come to the conclusion that, yeah, plague bearers are kind of dead on arrival now. Rip. Shatterers, I think, are not as good at. Shatterers were really good at 55. They're still decent, but I think that, well, we knew, or you knew all along, right, that marauders with flails were awesome and the best. And I think now it's pretty clear that they're clearly the best.
They consistently punch above their weight. I don't know how else to explain it with the Marauders. The 3-inch range is a big deal, a bigger deal than you think. And with judicious use of the Slave to Darkness reaction to heal 3 points, they last longer than you think they're supposed to.
Yep.
They do everything you want your chaff models to do. They have a 4 average 4 movement. They're not slow, so they can get to the objectives and they can stand on them, and that's what they do. I've hidden many Marauders in many parts of many boards to control quarters. So,
yeah, because
I just think that they punch above their weight. They're don't listen to me, GW. They don't need to be nerfed or anything, but
just let us keep the profile for a little bit longer. Don't retire it. Don't retire it just yet.
yeah.
I don't think it's that crazy. I think it's really good as a chaff, but
Yeah.
Its only fall off is damage. It can throw in chip damage to support another big guy, but it's not pulling weight by itself.
No.
It does the same thing. It does the same thing that your brutes, or not your brutes, your Ardboys do, which is it's chaff that doesn't die. It can run around. It can get in chip damage at a safe distance, And if you're not attacking with them, if you're just sitting ready, the reaction is to heal 3. So they effectively have 13 wounds, in some cases 16 wounds. It is demoralizing. Try to burn down the Varangard, and the Varangard is spending actions on healing 3, and he just doesn't die. Or you double attack thinking you're going to kill something, and if your rolls are medium or subpar combined with the reaction, you like waste a double attack on something and got nowhere versus the chaff. It's
It caught me, I think twice that happened, where it was like, I would have killed that if it wasn't for the reaction.
Yeah. So let's talk about where we might want to go with this. So Vexmore, obviously, the elephant in the room. And there's a lot of content. A lot of folks have talked about it. And I think the general consensus is, who put it best? It's essentially an Annihilator Prime profile for Chaos that Chaos gets to have.
Right.
It's not broken. It's strong. It's very efficient. You got to pay 180 for it. So, and Salty was talking about what's the best things to pair with it. Obviously, the Varangard Vexmore combo I think is a super good combo because you have the speed and versatility there. You have the slow moving, super efficient heavy hitter in Vexmore. And so I think if we're going to build around this, and I think you run our Glorious Marauders.
Right.
I think what you do is I think it's just as easy as take this list, you cut the Therodon with the sword and shield, turn that into Vexmore for 180, and then you have another 15 points left to put a blessing that could be that can go on the Therodon or the Demon Forge Blade, or the Varangard. Give it that 3/7 profile.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I'm leaning to that. So there's 2 ways to go with that actually, and I just was actually looking at it before we started. You can do that. You can cut the sword and shield and add Vexmore, and like you said, 180 for the blessing, and then 15 to put crit on the Varangard or the Therodon. I might actually put it on the Therodon, which also would be 3/7.
Yeah.
Or you can cut the axe Therodon and keep the sword and shield, which gives you 70 points for blessings. So,
right. Well, effectively 40, because we're just assuming you're always going to bless Vexmore.
You're always bless
Vexmore. Yeah. You're paying 180 for Vexmore, or you're doing it wrong. So you have 40 left. Okay.
40 left. Then I would put the +1 attack on the Therodon, which would give that a 5/5/2/4 attack profile.
Okay.
Then 10 points onto the Varangard, pump that 3/7. And I don't know which of those 2 I like better.
Okay, I can see that because 5/5/2/4, and you have 1 double per game to boost him up.
Right.
And the extra toughness is he's going to stand up. Vexmore himself has toughness 6, right?
Yeah. That puts all 3 of your big boys at toughness 6.
Wow. Okay.
Ooh,
yeah.
I see that.
It sounds really close. Yeah. Man. Yeah, that's
Both
gotta
are
be something to test.
Yeah, I think both are worth testing.
Okay. You want me to bring that Nightmare Hulk to when we play tomorrow, so you can test with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I was using a Great Knight as my proxy last time because it's on the same base. Not necessarily a very good proxy for a Slanish demon.
Well, we're gonna Nurglify everything. Yeah, Fred couldn't be here. Yeah, it's worth noting. Yeah, so Fred wasn't there to defend his crown.
Right.
And yeah, I thought without Fred there, and actually newcomer Josh, who I don't think he's been to one of our tournaments yet. He's a very strong player, and without either of them there, I thought you were gonna make it, but then Dave H here was a late ad and then kind of blew up
Yeah.
everything.
Nobody's primed me for second place podium. That's just where I set up the house.
You get I think it's a tie between you and Peter Merstencabbage, who has more second places.
Probably Peter. Well, yeah.
But Peter's been just winning a bunch lately. He won. Yeah, he played Slanesh and won his New Jersey tournament last weekend, the week before.
Then he's up on me.
Yeah, he's got once he broke his drought of wins, he's just been like smashing left and right. All right. So finally here we got Chris H. This is it's your dad, Dave. And I don't know what you know about this list. If you played against it or
I do know a bit about it.
Okay.
I did help them make it. I didn't do any of the changes after their points got changed around, but I helped him make it initially.
Yep, I can talk about that. But and so yeah, so tell me what you know about this.
So I knew. So he used to play Soulblight Gravelords when their Graveguard were super point efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kept losing against me. I don't know how many games he won against me. It might have been 1 or 2, but I won the majority. And he really wanted that charge ability that my Ironjawz got access to. And that's what eventually brought him to this list with the Stalkers having a charge-like ability.
Yep, it's very good. Soulblight Gravelords is a complicated subject. It's a one that folks are talking a lot about online. It's no one that we've been discussing internally too. How to best put this right? No, your dad's a sound player. He plays Kill Team, and anyone who's coming from Kill Team, he's a good Kill Team player.
Yeah,
they generally perform very well in Warcry, but he just, for whatever reason, you're right. He had a hard time kind of cracking the code. Go with Soulblight Gravelords with the list building, and it's tough. And Fred's had the same problem because Fred goes to when Fred gets into list building mode, there's so many different ways you can build Soulblight Gravelords. And since a lot of the best units got nerfed and the resurrection got nerfed and stuff like that, there is a lot of ways you can build Soulblight Gravelords incorrectly now. And it didn't used to be like that. It was very hard to build a bad Soulblight Gravelords list. Now it's the other way around. And there certainly are folks chatting online like, yes, there's some very strong Soulblight Gravelords lists. It's S tier, but it's a lot of like specialized Underworlds models, like the Electric Zombies, the Zandara's Gravebreakers, some of the Underworlds models that didn't necessarily get points nerfs, that sort of thing. And it's a lot of different combinations still. And yes, if you have a ton of reps and you build right, you can still perform with it. We're seeing that from the data that Salty's collecting from tournaments, but it is a steep curve to kind of get up there. And so the Ossiarch Bone Reapers list, and this form of the list, right, with the cheap leader, Harbinger, 2 Stalkers, and just fill it out with more Tech Guard. Or maybe you take the Harbinger, instead of the Harbinger, you run triple Stalker. That's a version as well. That construct is very tried and true. Very solid. Cheap chaff, the great abilities, the charge ability. The Morghast has a charge ability on a triple as well. That is an 8-inch flyer.
Even the weak leader guy has like a bonus to move to people around him, like a triple or something. That came out in my game. I didn't even know that he had that ability.
Yeah, and it's for everything in the deployment group, regardless of range, right? It's that one.
Yeah, it's everyone in the deployment group. So he just puts both of his stalkers in that group and then fly around.
Interesting.
It's
Yeah,
one of the big reasons he was able to beat me, because he was able to just zoom so much more
it's
than what I thought he could do.
it's a big mismatch then on that first turn of the game. You like
Yeah.
he had a stacked group versus your very unstacked group. Interesting.
Yeah,
It's all about matchups. It's all about matchups.
Yep.
Hmm.
And
So-
there was also a mix of, he rolled some really good rolls, I rolled some pretty bad rolls, and on top of that extra movement, I'd also mixed up where he was going to even deploy from. So I put a guy out in the wrong spot who got jumped and one shot by a stalker, which was crazy. He was rolling really well there. And that was just kind of the downhill.
You came in the wrong neighborhood.
Yeah.
So OBR got hit with some points nerfs. The chaff got a little bit more expensive. Nothing else did though, I don't think. So, and I chatted with him about how to do this. I think he figured out which models to take. So I think he had different loadouts earlier on the Morghast and the Stalkers. It just so happens that if you pay for the more expensive, essentially you're paying the tax, you're paying 40 more points on your Mortech Guard with the nerfs, you still had enough points, or you still had enough buffer where you could downgrade your Morghast and your Stalkers to the cheapest models that we're seeing here, the 265 point Harbinger with swords, 195 point Stalker with Falchions. The other ones might be a little better, but they're more expensive. But there was enough points to trim, and still get everything in at 1,000 points and still have essentially the same list. So again, like a minor overall nerfing to the list, but I think it's a good starter point for so anyone who's listening that has a list that got hit by nerfs, and your chaff went up in price, and what it means is oftentimes you have to cut a chaff model. It kind of brings it back to in line with everything else, or in some cases you can absorb it and you can just downgrade some other models to pay for the stuff that went up in price, or some combination thereof. I'll say, the lists that I'm testing right now are lists that were perfectly fine before the nerfs. They were affected by the nerfs, and I just adjusted the lists. They still play essentially the same. They got toned back a little bit, but they're still solid lists. In fact, actually, having to cut some things and swap some things around, arguably, it might be, and we'll see what happens here in a few months. It might be that those lists are overall stronger than they were because I was forced to make changes, right? Creativity or necessity is the mother of invention, right? I'm forced to change the list, and I put in something, and it winds up being an overall better fit for the overall list, what the overall list wants to do.
Yeah. One of the strongest examples is those Stalkers. The old Stalkers that he ran used to have 4 strength. It was like 2/4.
Mm-hmm.
The change to these Stalkers really made a difference. That was just aligned with the right amount of hit points to win Ironjawz.
Oh yeah, yep. Because they were, the more expensive one were like 5/4, 2/4s or something like that.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
So it's an odd downgrade, but an upgrade. At least against my list. I don't know how it is against others, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, strength 5 is kind of a big deal just in general now too. We've kind of learned that throughout the course of 2.0. So I don't know. Give a couple of other honorable mentions to a couple local folks here. Some other interesting lists here, and we're going by people's handles. So here in Dayton, we certainly just use our alter egos a whole lot. So coming out for a second tournament, we got to see Mr. Squelch. He brought a couple of his friends with him as well, playing Nurgle. This madman brought 2 Pus Goyle Blight Lords. Oh, I should have added more pictures from the tournament in this, because I took pictures and I put them online. It was like, and someone saw, like, there's 2 Fly Lords on the on the table, and they're like, "What is that?" Like, is that some like four or five model list? And I'm like, I double check, like, nope, he fits 6 models in the list using Pustful Blight Lords. And I saw he violently discharged something. He's like, he got squelched.
Yeah. I think he
Yeah.
killed
Mr.
something of mine like that.
Yep. Mr. Squelch, aka Gunk Squelcher on Discord. Yeah. So he got best painted warband. So again, just more evidence that Nurgle is a cheat code for winning painting awards. And then also I would be remiss if we did not mention local legend Death Dealer Dan.
Yep.
He is not Dan, he is Death Dealer Dan. That is his proper term of address. So he's been playing Black Talons primarily for tournaments now. It's right up his style, and it's the classic play style of just feed Neve actions and just have her just smash things. And he even had points left over for blessings, and so he decided to give Neve +1 strength, so she's 6'6", 2'4". Good times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he beat Joel round 1. I was like, oh, this could be his day.
It's a good list. Of course, 5 models is just a hard list, especially most of the I can't think of the right word right now, but most
Objective
of the
missions, yeah.
we played a lot of objective missions, and that's tough.
He beat Joel round 1, and that was Brutal Encounter. Oh, that was a takedown mission. Yeah, that was kind of yep. There was no way the Fire Slayers were probably not taking down too many of his guys.
Yeah, that's a bad matchup for that kind of mission.
Yeah, that's kind of a nightmare. Yeah, Joel. I don't have pictures. Due to logistics issues, we got started a little bit late, and I didn't do the normal things I do with the tournament with the light box and taking more pictures of warbands and stuff like that. But Joel had best single model, got the award for that one after the Vanguard. Some really well painted Vulcan Flame Seekers. I think it's just 1 box Vulcan Flame Seekers, but yeah, great looking warband there.
Yeah. I'm a sucker for fire effects, and they looked really good.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Next time I'll do better with getting the glamour shots again. So just a few other things, just kind of my thoughts of how this went. I did a few things differently. I used wartally.com. The site worked great, by the way. Shout out to Trolls, the guy that runs Wartally. No hitches at all whatsoever. I tried, it was kind of a test run for me to get used to that site. I tried using a different scoring system than some folks online like using, where you just get 1 point for a loss, 3 points for a draw, 5 points for a win, instead of the typical major minor. Major minor has its own kind of drawbacks to where certain warbands, it's very hard for them to get major victories because they just lose models. And it sort of forces people to build in a certain way if they actually do want to do well. It's kind of a side effect, but I think I'm kind of okay with it because there wasn't a lot of granularity in the 1-3-5 system, in which led to there being 3 people with the 3-way tie, and then strength of schedule, which I wanted to use as the primary tiebreaker, was also a tie. So
yeah, it worked out that all the 3-1 people played each other. So like my only loss was to Dave, whose only loss was to Chris, whose only loss was to me. So it worked out.
Yep, that was a little weird. And typically I depend on I like using strength of schedule to kind of resolve that for me a little bit more cleanly. So there was one minor limitation with it where it wouldn't track kill points for me, because if I had it track kill points, it would automatically make it a tiebreaker above strength of schedule. I actually chatted with Trollwells right now afterwards, and said, hey, can you let me choose tiebreakers and in any order? And I think he's already kind of implemented it, or he's going to add it to his to-do list. So that's I really appreciate him being able to do that as well. So I think I'm going to kind of go back to, if I do it all over again, I'm going to go back to major minors. I'm going to still use strength of schedule as a tiebreaker. I'm going to track kill points. That could be a third tiebreaker if necessary, but then also it's just nice to have the kill points reported all in one place, so I don't have to track it separately. And then the side pool for kill points. So we had a side pool for painted. We had a side pool for most kill points. Who was it? Is it Andrew on Stormcast? Got the highest kill points of anybody outside the top placements. So he got a box of skulls. And that's something I continue to do to just encourage folks, like, hey, maybe you don't care about the objectives. Maybe you just want to smash stuff. Here's a prize for you. You don't need to win any of your games. Just kill more than anybody else, and you get a side prize. So,
yeah,
any thought?
I really liked it. I thought it was a pretty fun way to kind of encourage. It's like, all right, you've lost. What now? You still got to turn left before you're fully out of here. Let's make it count.
Yep.
It encourages people to not just drop,
Yep. And major minor, again, back to major minor, I think major minor kind of gives you some incentive too, because like if you're going to lose the game, you can at least take out, make it your best way to squeak out a minor loss versus a major loss is to take out half their guys. So maybe you just turn around and say, all right, you know what? I'm going to take you down with me. And that's your best chance of scoring 5 points instead of 0. Okay. So other tournaments here up next. So a lot of testing for Nova Open. The battle pack got released. I'm kind of digesting that right now. There's 5 missions in the battle pack. And so at least locally for the events that I'm running over the summer, I already have them printed out. I'm going to have missions from that battle pack because I want to get testing in on those. It's a different format. I don't want to get too much into the format. There's other channels that are covering the format and the battle plans in greater depth. So I don't really want to go into that, go too far into depth there. But yeah, kind of looking forward to that over the next couple months. Again, I have a couple top contenders for lists. It's interesting in terms of like, do I want to play? There's a lot of objective missions with other other secondaries, and I'm kind of wanting to play more models, but then I also feel like after hearing some of the other analysis of the packs, it might just be that, you know what, maybe I want to just smash and then I can win the objectives after I just win all the fights. And so Ironjawz is on the list of candidates.
Yeah.
Ironjawz or Horns, Horns being another one. And it all kind of depends on what I want to do and what I want the warband to look like. I'm trying a new Horns list tomorrow. The chaff is decent. It's not super great. That is, it's fine. They're no flail marauders. The flamethrowers are great when they work well, and I got to try a few new things to kind of go with the flamethrower, because my experience with Horns has been like when the flamethrowers work for you, when they carry you, then yeah, you can't be beaten. But when the flamethrowers do not carry you, like, will the rest of the warband carry you? That I'm not so sure. Whatever big guy and the leader and the chaff, are they going to win? Are they going to win for you if your flamethrowers whiff? And I don't know. That's where I maybe want to, again, Ironjawz. My guys are going to win fights and they're not going to die. So, yeah, I'm putting a lot into this. I'm traveling for this thing, and yeah, it's I'm really kind of heavily invested in this because I don't get to go out and go on the road and do tournaments too often. It's been a while, so finally, upcoming events here. I would be remiss, and I announced this to everybody as well. So save the date. Anyone who's listening here, we're running our own event here. It's before Nova Open. I already had this mentally blocked out for this weekend because this is going to be the last tournament I probably am able to run in the area due to other things I'm going to be doing. Do some other stuff I have going on at the end of the year. But August timeframe before Nova, it is the 5th anniversary of Warcry. Warcry came out in August 2019. And so what we're going to be doing is we are going to run a tournament here in Dayton. And it is a celebration of the 5-year anniversary of Warcry. We have the date set, Saturday, August 17th. The venue should be set. I'm waiting to hear back and get confirmation from Epic Loot. It's a little bit better venue where I can get in earlier and get more things set up for it. $20 entry fee. We'll probably cap at 16 players because we have about 8 boards or so to work with. But here's the thing: in addition to prizes based on the buy-in, first place I'm opening up the stash here, a sealed copy of the original 1.0 starter box with the Iron Golems and the Untamed Beasts, and the awesome terrain, chaotic beasts, a little time capsule for folks. Haven't gotten the tournament pack locked down or anything else like that. I don't think I want to use the same missions from the Nova pack. I think I want to have this event have its own kind of identity. So I might work with maybe Salty to kind of pick some missions that kind of capture some 1.0 flavors to kind of go with the mission, to kind of go with the flavor of the event. But yeah, this is coming up. So this is a project I have going on this summer. Is, in addition to testing for Nova, running this event as well in August, and also hobby stuff, a couple hobby things to get Nova stuff ready to go. So I got a busy summer ahead of me. What do you guys think?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to see if I can make it. I don't know 100% because that's around where college starts up, but I think it's the week after. So I think I could probably make it.
So we had 8. We had 8 at the tournament here, and I wanna break a record. I want to make this a destination event that people come to. It's hard to get folks to come to tournaments, right? I could have had 12 last weekend, but we had some folks back out. That happens. Life happens. But yeah, this is potentially my last hurrah as a TO in the area here, and so I'm going to go out, and it's a nice event, tying it to the 5-year anniversary. I'm going to go out with a bang here, running events. That's my plan.
Yeah, I'm taking the day off, and we'll hang out. We'll have a good time. We'll play some more.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you work Saturdays. Yeah, I chatted with Armor Enthusiast about this, and I think he suggested Saturday versus Sunday because if I'm going to pull people from out of town, Saturday might work a little bit better for that. So again, if you're in the area, the Ohio area, maybe come across from Pennsylvania. We had Peter Mercencabbage come out to an event once. I was stoked to see him. Maybe we get some other folks to travel to this one here. Make this a little bit of a destination event. Again, wedge between Gen Con and Nova. I don't know who we get, but yeah, I'm just throwing this out there. Before we do the outro, anything else? We're about an hour in, it looks like. Well, maybe less. We got more than an hour in. Okay.
Got more than an hour. Add it down a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
I'm pretty good. Is this the part where we throw in our inspirational speech before we close that out?
Inspirational speech? Yeah. If you got an inspirational speech, let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, it's a very minor one, but to anyone who might be new to the hobby or whatever, even though I've been doing really good with my list, I randomly picked it all the way back when I was starting Warcry. I was really sad that I couldn't get into Orcs and Big 40K and Kill Team. I just didn't really like their lists. And I was like, I'm putting it in the sand. I'm playing orcs. And it worked out for me. And it can work out for you with whatever list you might find.
That is pretty inspirational there. And really, I do like that because I can very easily go down the rabbit hole of competitive lists and like, okay, this works and this doesn't work, and I don't want to play this because this won't work, right? But if you're listening, or well, if you're listening and you're maybe not the competitively minded player, right? Warcry has something for everybody. Maybe it has a bunch of cool models, tons of awesome flavor and stuff like that. The list building, you can just build meme lists and stuff like that if you want. There's a lot of different ways to express yourself. So yeah, even though I can sometimes often get just tunnel visioned of, this is what's good for competitive play or that sort of thing. I know I can, it's a good attitude to have, right? To just be like, yeah, you can just kind of turn off the competitive brain and just play something fun for once.
Yeah.
I like that.
The models you think look cool.
Yeah. Rule of cool. That's what I do tell folks.
Cool.
That's what I do tell folks who are new. It's all rule cool first, and then you'll figure out what you want to do after that. This brings us to a close for this episode of Dayton Warcry Club. We don't know when the next episode will be. Might be something, again, maybe something else promoting our upcoming event. Maybe a little bit more on Nova Open Prep. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you'll definitely hear from us probably sometime in the next couple months. If not, definitely after Nova. I'll be talking about my experiences there as I'm doing the GT at Nova, and then also doing some narrative on one of the days as well. So, also, if you want to get more up-to-date information about any of these events, the best place to go is the official Warcry Discord. Link is in the description below. You find me there as War Machine.
I'm there at CForever.
And I'll eventually be on there soon.
Talk to you guys later. T-Rex 0. One sec
T-Rex.
here.
With an H.
Hero.
One word.
One
T-Rex.
sec. Let me get that added to this.
At least I think.
I don't think you are actually.
I don't know.
Because I think the only server we have in common, is in our message history. The only server we have in common is Gem City Grimdark. So you might not be. So we need to get you plugged in. We can get you plugged into the greater Warcry community right there.
Oh yeah.
And you can learn more about Ironjawz or what, because you're pure Ironjawz. You could go
Pure Ironjawz.
You could ally, so you could start figuring out what to ally into. You could go super wide in destruction. A lot of things you could do.
What's the destruction monster? Is there a good one?
You have the Gargant, you have Cygor, you have the other big beast guy, the big beast man. So yeah, Gorgon, yeah. They're not super great. One of them, the one that throws
list, right?
rocks is good. Or it's a powerful effect.
That's a Cygor, I think, that throws rocks. Somebody somewhere allows you to play monsters, and so it's it's a good idea to have that in mind.
You can't play them at Nova. They banned monsters from Nova. I was gonna bring a Chimera.
I think the game is better without monsters, and I say that as somebody who has monsters and likes them. I think it's better without them. It's not a monster-oriented game.
Yeah, monsters work a lot better in like personal games. That's where they fit.
For narrative, like I can see like narrative as like bosses or things like that, but yeah.
Oh, for sure. All right. Well, our outro just got completely derailed, but don't worry. I can always fix it in post.
Cut that.
Or I could just redo it here. So